Hello, friends and followers. Welcome back to my channel. This is Lynn Has Things to Say, and we've got a lot to say today about MLMs again. Gonna pop myself a fake La Croix. Get this thing started. Hey, friends and followers, I can hardly believe it's happened, but it has actually happened. One of the oldest, most venerated multi-level still in existence has filed for bankruptcy as of yesterday. No, I'm not talking about Avon. That is now old news. No, today I'm talking about the one, the only, the thing your mother had in her kitchen in the 70s and 80s, Tupperware. Okay, before we get started, yes, I'm coming at you from a different angle yet again. We're trying out all this equipment. We're trying to see what happens. We're seeing if this stupid microphone is going to record all the way through. I decided to try this angle. I'm really having trouble with the way that the office is set up, just because literally right there, where I would love to put my camera, is my son's drum kit. It's set up really nicely, but I can't move it. And that is causing me dismay. We'll figure it out at some point. We'll move it at some point, or I will figure out setting up my camera the way it is right now. It's a little closer to me. You can see a little bit less of my messy office. I don't know. We'll see. But it is attached to the desk again, so I'm going to try really hard not to shake the desk. But I think this is probably better. Anyway, welcome back. This is very exciting. I was not going to do another MLM one immediately. I'm working on 2 other videos right now. I'm just doing some research still. But this came out yesterday and I could not let it go. In fact, I really wanted to just do this yesterday. But you know, I had to write it because I'm not just one to go and start reading or start recording without a script, because I'm a writer. It's just not me. So I was actually not following the Tupperware story, and when I went to go post on Pink Truth, I don't know if you know about Pink Truth, but it's a place where you can follow stuff about Mary Kay, but they also do have if you join the discussion boards, you can talk about other MLMs and what's been going on with them. So I posted about it and somebody said, well, this is old news. They've been talking about bankruptcy since April of 2023, which by the time somebody said that, I knew that. But I hadn't been following along since last year. You know, I felt a little foolish posting that after somebody kind of corrected me and said this is old news, but I don't feel like it's old news. I think that companies sometimes will announce that they're facing bankruptcy in a last-ditch effort to save themselves, and in some cases it works, and in this case it surely didn't. All right, so I'm going to give you a short history of the company. It's not going to be the full history of the company. You can go and read about it. There is a freakishly long article about it on Wikipedia. Weird, right? And you can go to their company website as long as it's there for a little longer. But I just want to give you the short lowdown on the company, because it's pretty interesting. And there was stuff I didn't know. So, you know, because I didn't care. But here we go. So the company was started in 1942 by a guy named Earl Tupper. Well, now we know where the name came from. And everything about this says he invented a bell-shaped bowl. Okay. So there's varying pieces of information in various places about how and when the company started. So it appears that Earl asked for polyethylene pellets from the DuPont company in 1938 so he could try to invent new kitchenware. But it took him a while to create his first products. And when he finished creating his first products, he started this company in 42, but he didn't share his first products with the public until 1946. That's what I got out of reading a couple of different articles and kind of trying to figure out based on like different numbers that I saw. So these products kind of went public in 1946. And let's face it, you start a company, you're not ready to go, you're not ready for prime time for a couple of years sometimes. So in 1951, Brownie Wise, who had been a representative of Stanley Home Products, just like Mary Kay Ash, come to think of it, became VP of Marketing to start the marketing plan that became the hallmark of the company, which was called the Tupperware Party. So here's something funny about that, because I mentioned to my husband that I was going to do a video on Tupperware, filing for bankruptcy for my MLM series. And he didn't realize that Tupperware was a multi-level. And he said, I thought you could just buy the stuff in stores. And he's like, I just assumed that you could buy it in stores. And I think this might be because like his mom wasn't really a party person, maybe. I don't know why, but I'm just kind of conjecturing there. But he's like, well, I guess the Tupperware Party should have made it pretty clear, but maybe it's not that clear that it was or is an MLM, but it is an MLM. It's a multi-level where the people at the bottom make far less money than the people at the top. And it's pretty much always been that way, but it is definitely that way right now. And if you don't know what a Tupperware party was, it's just like any MLM party that you would have in person these days. They would show the products, they would hold them up, they would let the women, it was always women, right? Feel and look at the product, and then they would take orders and sell. So the company expanded to Europe in the 1960s, and from the late 60s until the late 90s, there were a great number of company sales, mergers, demergers, spin-offs of various parent companies, eventually leading back to Tupperware Brands being its own company by the end of the 1990s. So for a long time, even through to today, any plasticware in the kitchen would be called Tupperware, right? Even if you got like store brand plasticware to save your leftovers in, you would generally ask for, hand me the Tupperware, or get me a piece of Tupperware from the cabinet, right? In the way that tissues became Kleenex. If you were born in a certain time period, like my mom still says, could you put this in the Frigidaire? My refrigerator is a Whirlpool, but she still calls it the Frigidaire. And that came from her mother. And I will say, could you put this in the Frigidaire? And my family thinks I'm crazy. So maybe, some of them do wear off after a while. Anyway, so what happened? What happened as something so ubiquitous just completely went away? All right, so I'm going to be honest with you. When I heard that Tupperware filed for bankruptcy, I was sure that it had just been beaten down with a stick starting sometime in the 80s and continuing until it was down to no interest. So even when my friend was a consultant, I really only had a party because I wanted an orange peeler. And I felt awful that she was having so much trouble booking appointments. But really, I wanted an orange peeler. This is the Tupperware orange peeler, and mine's a little dirty. But it's been around since forever. I don't know if it was an original product, but my mom had one, and I'm pretty sure my grandmother had one, and I didn't know how to peel an orange without one. Which is kind of ridiculous, but for a while, I was like, I don't know how to do this. Do we just cut it with a knife? I really wanted one, so I had a party. And I'm going to digress for a minute because my 11-year-old calls this the orange peeler, because oranges are orange and the orange peeler is orange. And now the word has no meaning. But anyway, I felt bad for my friend. And here's the thing. I don't think anybody bought anything. I got the orange peeler because I was a hostess, and I got it was a shape sorter that you would open up, put the shapes in. I had that shape sorter as a child, and it was the best shape sorter in the world. So I got one for my kid. And I don't think I got a discount on it because I honestly don't believe that anybody else bought anything. I might be wrong, but it was an online party, and their online party system was not great. I certainly knew how to invite people to a party because I've been in MLMs. I know how they work. I know how to invite people. Nobody wanted to buy anything. They were like, why? Like, why? I don't know your friend, and we've been through this. You know, basically everybody wants me to buy everything through their friend now. So no thanks. And I don't know anything about Tupperware. So why? So, but other things were really contributions to the problem. So within the company, the 21st century was the beginning of the end. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to have a sip of water. I have to hydrate. This is getting to be serious, you guys. I am not supposed to have as much coffee as I do. And I'm supposed to drink more liquid, water-ish things. So I am drinking some fizzy water, and I've been drinking water with like electrolytes squeezed into it. If anybody's got a good one, you know, you can sponsor me with my 60 followers. I'm sure they'll be happy to buy your electrolyte mix. Okay. Seriously, you guys, someday it's going to happen. All right. But it's early, and I know I'm just kidding about it all because I love my 60 followers, my 60 subscribers so much. I'm shocked. I'm shocked we got this high. I really am, and I love you guys. So, like and subscribe. Boom. Okay. So in 2003, Tupperware closed down in the UK and Ireland, as apparently by 2003, the MLM model was already on the decline in those areas, and people weren't going for it. They weren't buying. They closed down the MLM model. And then they completely left the Israeli market in 2018, and then they reopened only online. And they put their consultants completely out of business. So that wasn't online, you can purchase from a consultant. It was online, you can purchase directly from the company. Consultants were out of business. In 2021, they closed down in the Netherlands. And in 2022, they closed down in New Zealand. That's a lot of closings in an international market. So let's look to the NPR article. The company began warning of a potential bankruptcy in early 2023. Its debt had ballooned to more than $700 million. It had faced a steep federal fine for failing to maintain accurate books and records. Tupperware Brands then closed its only U.S. factory in South Carolina, laying off 148 workers and moving more operations to Mexico. In October of last year, it replaced several of its leaders, including a new CEO who previously ran the shapewear brand Spanx and cosmetics stalwart Avon North America. Oh gosh, Avon also filing for bankruptcy. Juicy or coincidence? Both? All right, that was my comment in the middle there. But this is, go back to the NPR article, but any turnaround crumbled under the weight of debt payments, which Tupperware has missed despite extensions. Lenders and management have struggled to lock in a long-term deal. The company has missed required regulatory disclosures. Its value has collapsed from $93 per share at the peak in 2014 to less than 50 cents per share on Monday. And if you had asked me if Tupperware was a publicly traded company, I would not have thought so. So another surprise for me. So that was from NPR. And you can listen to that whole article on the NPR website. I will link it in the description. On September 18th, Tupperware brands filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection with plans to continue operating during the proceedings. So, what do I have to say? Because you know I have something to say. First of all, good. Good. It should happen to more multi-levels. It would be better if they all closed. You know my general opinion on multi-levels. They need to go away. But let's look at the products themselves as well as the business practices, and you're going to see a bunch of things that just didn't bode well for the company. So I personally remember when Rubbermaid food containers started showing up in grocery stores. Now, I actually might be wrong about this. When I looked it up on the internet, it looks like Rubbermaid has been around a lot longer than I thought it was. But I remember Rubbermaid food containers coming to stores sometime in the late 1980s. So it might have been that they came to stores in my area in the late 1980s, or possibly I became more aware of the things that you could use in your kitchen in the late 1980s. And it was just right before I went to college. And I also know that when I was in college, we purchased Rubbermaid for the house that I lived in. And when I was out of college, that's the kind of thing that I purchased for my first apartment. So it's true that they didn't last as long as Tupperware, because Tupperware could last for 40 years. But also at that time, in the late 80s, more women were working full time. And they were already walking away from having home-based parties. I know that kind of sounds a little silly because going into the 2000s, people were still having home-based parties. It's not like other home-based parties went away. But if you were going to have a home-based party, something that would make your kitchen life easier didn't seem to me to be the thing that was going to happen for women who were now working full-time in offices, in professional jobs. So it was a lot easier to just go to the store and get anything as a replacement for Tupperware straight from the store. Also, the stuff that my mother got in the 70s from Tupperware, it was indestructible. It was still good in the 90s. So as a home-based business, they kind of tell you, and one of the things that we would tell people in Mary Kay is Mary Kay was a consumable. If you had a customer who did not become a consultant, that customer could be a customer for life, because you got them started on a product and then they had to replace it after 30, 60, 90 days because it ran out. So they were constantly coming back for more product. But if you're selling something like Tupperware that lasts forever and is indestructible, how are you going to sell that person more? How are you going to do another party with a hostess except to say, oh, we have more stuff, right? But if you're catering to the stay-at-home housewife or stay-at-home mother, right? You're talking to somebody who might be on a budget for purchasing that stuff? And why are you going to purchase that stuff when you already have something that works well enough? So, beyond that, you get yourself to the 80s and 90s, and I said that this stuff was available. I mean, it was available. These food containers from Rubbermaid, even store brands, I'm sure there were other brands of them. I'm just not thinking of them now because I'm thinking of the ones that I saw or used, right? You could buy them in Kmart, in Target, in Walmart. You could buy them in your grocery stores. Why would you have a Tupperware party? Do you want to clean your house so you could buy another storage container? Because I don't. I don't want to make my house clean enough for a stranger to come in to sell me Tupperware. So as I said, Rubbermaid containers might not have lasted as long, but who cares when you could get them right near home, and they lasted long enough, right? So, and at the time we weren't as concerned with plastics. Okay, we didn't really understand what was happening with plastics at the time, right? We're more concerned, and we don't want single-use plastics, but these were not single-use plastics, right? The plastics that I have in my house, and pardon me here, because I often relate things to events in my life. I'll say things like, this happened before college, this happened after my first wedding, this happened after my second wedding, right? So I know that the containers I have in my house have been around for more than 10 years, right? They're longer than my second marriage. So generally speaking, they last about as long as you can ask them to. They're lasting 10 years or more. That's a long time. And we throw them away, right, when they get to be completely broken. And we try to find recycling for them. Unfortunately, in our area, they only recycle number one. We have actively looked for places that we would recycle higher numbers, because it is, we are concerned about plastics. But speaking of plastics, we found out about BPAs. So we don't heat up anything in plastic anymore. And that actually could contribute to it lasting longer. And so, maybe in the 80s, maybe in the 80s, Rubbermaid products, store-bought products, maybe they didn't last as long because we were maybe using them in the microwave, but we don't do that anymore, right? So Tupperware claimed that as of 2010, all of their products were BPA free. And 2010 is slightly earlier than the FDA ban, which was in 2012. But savvy customers knew as early as 1997 if they were paying attention. In 1997, the first in vivo BPA study by endocrinologists, I'm reading now, so by endocrinologists, reported that feeding BPA to pregnant mice induced adverse reproductive effects in male offspring at the low dose of 2 micrograms per kilograms per day. Since then, thousands of studies have reported adverse effects in animals administered low doses of BPA. That's from NIH.gov. We knew that BPA was toxic. We knew. Parents in my mom's group in 2006 were searching desperately for bottles that didn't contain BPA, and a lot moved to some companies had glass bottles, and a very few companies, but some had bottles that had a big sticker on them that said BPA free right there on the packaging, because we knew and we didn't want to use BPA bottles for our babies, especially for our baby boys. But Tupperware was still selling BPA products up until 2009. Now, I give them props for changing in 2010, which was before the FDA ban, but they knew sooner. Because we knew sooner. So, beyond BPAs, we now know and we understand the problem with microplastics. We understand about plastic in the ocean. We understand that recycling isn't going to recycling, which is a big problem in this world. And an individual making a small difference isn't going to fix it, but corporations can. Even in our house, when we use every piece of plastic until it completely dies and then try to use it for a craft, we're replacing plasticware with glassware as it breaks or warps beyond repair. We understand, we know, we're doing what we can now, and we're trying to do better. As I look around and see if there's any plasticware on my desk. We'll see. All right. Let's look at the 2023 Income Disclosure Summary. So these are numbers from Tupperware. This is public information. These are numbers for the entire year, January through December 2023. There were 32,069 consultants who were inactive, which means they did not meet minimum sales quotas to be considered active consultants. And that's more than 50% of all of the Tupperware consultants did not meet minimum sales quotas. The average earnings per participant in that case was $43.33 for the year. But maybe that's not fair. They might have just signed up, or they might have signed up just for their own products at a discount, or they might have been on their way out. Just like in Mary Kay, they say 1/3's coming in, 1/3's going out, 1/3 is working. So let's go on and see. 29,880 active consultants at the quote consultant level. So that's 47% of the total. Consultants had an average income of $524,064 for the 2023 year. Okay. Well, surely the next level will have done better. There were 877 managers, less than 2% of the company. It would have to be, right? One was 50%, one was 47%. And each made an average of $5,378.13. Well, I certainly hope this wasn't a full-time job for those managers. That was in a year. In a regular company, when you're a manager, that means you make more money. But let's look at the higher ups. Okay. In 2023, the average individual salary in the United States was just over $59,000. So we don't even approach that until the 3-star director level, of which there were 16 consultants, 0.05% of the company. So this was not a career for anybody. This was not a career for anybody. This company basically looks like it was rapidly going down the kitchen drain. Pardon my pun. Don't pardon my pun. I accept my puns. All right. Let's look at the secondary market. I like to check eBay to see how much of the product sat on the shelves and then is being sold at an extreme discount. And you always assume it's going to be at a discount. They're just trying to make their money back. And in my experience, this is product that a consultant bought and couldn't get rid of. So let's take a look. Let's open up eBay. eBay.com. Let's just search for, no, I don't want to sign in. I just want to search. Yeah, I did it yesterday, so it's already there. And we have right at the top, the Tupperware Heritage Get It All Complete 30-piece set for $65.54. Buy it now. I don't know how much that is normally, but that looks like a lot. We have 130,000, more than 130,000 results for Tupperware. So, I mean, that's my shocked face. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. So, what do we learn? Well, in my opinion, even if it's been around seemingly forever, an MLM is an MLM. And, you know, as a company, they could have done more for the people who were working for them, but they didn't. They could have hired a better marketing person when things were changing and they needed a change in their marketing, and they didn't. They could have changed their business model, and they didn't. They certainly could have done their accounting correctly, and they didn't. When they see that the vast majority of the people who work for them do not make money, instead of lying to themselves about what is happening, they should be looking at it, bringing in a change management person and trying to fix the problem. How can the people who are selling our products make more money? How can we fix this problem? How can we change this from making all of your money by recruiting into making real money by sales if we are going to be a sales company? They're not a sales company. When you see that a few people, and I mean a few, very, very few people, make all the money, it brings what we say about MLMs to the forefront, right? Because this company got to be so small that you could look at it as a microcosm of other MLMs, right? If you were to take that and then say, well, other MLMs have a lot more. Yeah, they do. Let's take that and say, double it, triple it, quadruple it, increase it for other companies by an order of magnitude. You still have that same 2 or 3 people, 6 people, 9 people, 12 people, 18 people, right? Even when you get to Mary Kay, which is big and which has a lot of national sales directors, right? It's still that 0.0 something % of the company making all of the money and everybody else making a relative pittance. When you look at somebody who is a manager, a second level, I don't remember what their management levels are. But when you look at somebody who should be considered a full-time employee, making so little, they might as well, if they're trying to make a little bit of extra money for their family, would they do better just working a part-time job in fast food, or working at a store, or doing some other kind of service job? If they like selling, because at least their paycheck would be consistent, they'd probably make more money. And they certainly wouldn't be sitting with products they couldn't sell, or products they bought to show and then didn't have a party, so couldn't show. I'm shocked actually at how bad it looks when you look at this small company that used to be big and what was left of it and how little everybody was making. Because you would think with a company so small that you could still grow, that you could say, okay, we're really small now. This is our time. This is our time to grow and bring more people in. Let's be the new Tupperware, right? But it didn't work. And they didn't make it work. So, and it seems to me that the people who are left who are making the money, they're making this money on the backs of people who are just struggling with a pittance. I hope you take it to heart. I hope you take it to heart. If you enjoyed this, if you enjoy my content, please look at the others. I promise I will bring something that is not MLM related. I am working on two things. One is my husband got ripped off at Jiffy Lube, but got his money back, which is amazing. And we're going to talk about that. And the other is kind of a secret. I don't want to talk about it yet. I don't have enough to see if I'm going to actually record, but I'm working on it. So the next one should be about our super duper experience at Jiffy Lube and how we got our money back. So, so please subscribe, like, share with your friends. Please tell your friends to stay away from all MLMs, even if they seem to have been around forever. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Edna's been with me since I started my business. What do you think, Edna? Should we be sad about all the MLMs we messed up with? I never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. That's right. We shouldn't be sad. We should just warn other people, right? Yes, we love Edna. I mean, for goodness sakes, I'm talking with... No, this isn't going to work. I mean, the question is, do we think that I can find another place to move my sewing machine? Or do I have to use this table for everything? I don't know. There's too many. Okay, before we get to it, yes, again, I have moved my cameras. I have changed around my speakers. I mean, let's try that again.